It seems that just a week ago we saw one of the most spectacular races in league racing history, with a race finishing all the way, or battle for first finishing all the way up the last corner between Charlie and Preston. They now find themselves in the same car as teammates, or whether that will be advantageous or simply will lead to conflict is something we'll find out today. Welcome to qualifying of the Brazilian Grand Prix Round 9, Season 5, now on the way. With Doggo being on second lap around the quite spectacular track. 3 sectors as per tradition, and a full 15 corners, with several of them being very slight, very subtle. This will be his first full lap he is completing, obviously after leaving the pits, and definitely will be hoping to set something in early. We saw a massive competition between the drivers last week. Several drivers, including Dolga for example, had set fast laps which had later been quite substantially destroyed. Dustley, who has now left the session, was also one of them. Preston obviously took pole position, later won the race, took second in the feature. Davey, with the first purple lap of the day, sets a 1:16.2. Soft tire compound for him, already a massive difference between him and Dolga, 4 seconds of difference, simply because of different tires. Although a 2-second margin can be found now, as we see Ghost finishing his lap 2 seconds ahead of Dolga and 2 seconds behind Davey. Whether that can be improved, we will find out later on. Preston, meanwhile, take a look. I'm not entirely sure whether seems to be going quite full send onto his second lap. So well, let's take a look to praise the circuit that we're on. Purple sector 1 for Preston, definitely something that proves he is pushing in this on this lap. He now finds himself in deep of sector 2. Turns 8, 9, 10, marking quite a deep hairpin. Something is about to go through. Davey sets another purple lap on worn tyres. A 1:15.7 is what Preston will now be trying to beat on his wet tyres. Obviously, as we all know, there is quite a limited range of tyres when it comes to Formula 2, but it isn't stopping Preston from setting a second purple time. Just a few corners left. Sector 3 now commences with one subtle corner left. He really is using every single corner, every single part of the track, but that's unfortunately only enough to set him a P2. What I haven't noticed is the massive margin that we now find between Davey and Preston. Davey now retired. Preston with a 1:25, a 10-second gap. It does seem like something must have been wrong there. Oh, guess who else said a purple sector? The Rapster. I see people calling me the best commentator. Well, maybe you'll see me on Sky one day. Hopefully. Invalidated lap time here I see for 4 D-Raps. Definitely not something we'll be hoping for, but a second lap will definitely be possible very soon. Now it appears as if he's on the wet tires, but our telemetry here was telling us that he's on softs, which appears to be untrue. Would you look at that? Because also the 1:26.2. Sorry for my lack of enthusiasm in these early stages of the qualifying session, but with over 20 minutes left, I think we can expect much more than what we've had so far. Although 115.7 is definitely something. How do I put it? Maybe not as far, I wouldn't go as far as saying insane, but definitely very strong indeed. Now for you guys watching, please tell me this. I've been facing some major contemplations recently in my life. As you may know, my PSN is my surname, but this major contemplation comes from potentially changing it to Dodo Bird. Would you be in support? Let me know. 22 minutes left in the session, and Mika from the TF gang sets a massive purple time on 115.7, so it seems as if Preston's gap to Davey wasn't a mistake. I have seen requests for Sean FIFA, who currently finds himself in the pits. We have a fish straight from Scotland. Very nice. We will show FIFA as soon as he leaves the pits. Unfortunately, he is currently still there. Another purple sector for Mika, who appears to be pushing for a second lap. Now, as a point of comparison, now that he crossed the line, he was around the 109 range. There is potential for even a faster lap, and it is 115.5. Now, Davey had said at 115.7. That's a almost 2/10 of a difference to Mika. Preston, as I'd like to remind you, on the 125.4, 10 seconds of a difference, 9.9 to be exact, to Mika. His teammate, Ghost, with the 128.3, obviously on the wet tyres. Somebody using soft tyres is Dustly, as you can see him right now. Liking to hit that wall very hard. And a P3 is enough for him, a 117.7, so there you go. The soft tyres are definitely the way to go in this race. Why you and wet drivers is a answer that Blooper Trooper wants to know. So if you may, please respond. Scottish Fish retires from the session because he is going to Ireland, lads. Maybe not ideal for a Scottish Fish, considering he will probably be beaten by the Irish Fish, but I guess that's better than going to the English Fish. Just going up and down, side to side, like I was gonna say commentator. Unfortunately, I don't get to drive up and down, side to side. But who does? Dustly does. With the invalidated lap time up is he's going to be going for another 4-1. Braking perfectly at the 50-meter board that takes him around turn 1. It's very important of a corner. It really requires a lot of skill to master, and with the way Dustly has managed to get through it, he has now a very good run onto the following straight between turn 3 and turn 4. DRS zone in that area. On the run down to turn 6, he crosses turn 5, which is now part of sector 2, but he eases off. No. Okay, mama. for almost no reason as it turns out. Mikos is at 115. The race, as some drivers, these laps on the soft tyres isn't going to be worth it after all, because I'd like to remind you, 15 attempts is only visible in qualifying. Now, once these drivers do get out onto the racetrack in the race, that gap will be minimized to only 50 meters of a difference, if that. So your second gap isn't really going to be a 10-second gap at the start of the race. Ben has also left the session. What straps are going? I don't know, probably the Shadow Realm. Yes. GT would. Okay, so it appears as okay, so I've changed my headset. If you do hear me, please report whether this is better now. Okay, so we're back in the race, but this so we had some issues, and we are now privileged enough to see a one-shot quali, something that is definitely going to be quite awesome. Why, you may ask? Put it this way, every single one of the drivers has only one lap to complete in the aim of winning pole position. You can imagine how that goes. Luckily enough, they're not all on track on the same track, they're all in separate little games. So what you find yourself now is a major competition where you no longer have the ability to do 3-4 runs. You're gonna have to be more conservative to make sure that you don't make a mistake, but you're gonna have to make every single risk you can. Anyway, let's take a look at a few of our drivers here. I think somebody who's definitely worth watching is going to be Preston Curran. He is leading, well, he was for a moment though, in P2, Mika though in P1. Preston, let's watch him in this lap. Going to the outskirts, he is now, let's see how far behind he is from Mika. Mika now crosses this area of the track, but Preston already through the corners. Oscar suddenly falling right down the pack, but we're coming back to 7th. The Rapster in 3rd, managing to hold on. Preston in 2nd, with the 3 corners just left on this track. Where can we expect either driver to finish? There's a question we're going to find out soon. The differences seem to be tiny. We saw Preston's move up to 1st for just a moment there, but the 106 so far through the race. We will now see this is the final set of corners, limiting drivers to completing their lap. Who will take pole position? It seems to be Preston. It is Preston. 115.5, less than a 10th separating him from P2 from Mika. Awesome lap. So there you have it, a bunch of Dutchies on the screen, as you can see. One disqualification, that being Dionskis, if I pronounced his name correctly. But the gap of 2 seconds is definitely isn't one of the biggest gaps we've seen in league racing, also not the smallest though. So you can definitely expect some of the titles racing around this track today. A sprint and a feature race is what you're going to be treated with. So Preston, Mika, Durabster, Davey, Kosorov, there's your top 5 of the top 5 drivers in the highest contention for the win so far. I really do hope that all the rules are set up correctly this time. For those of you in the comments, please let me know if there's any issues with my microphone. I switched the headset, so it appears as if previous issues have been sorted, but I can't confirm anything. So if you do spot something, please let me know. There you have it. For a moment I was wondering why Dustley is in P1. That is because qualifying order is inverted within the top 10. So Preston starts from 10th. The last time he did this, he ended up winning the race, and then concluded the 2nd feature race with a P2. Quite an awesome comeback for the course of the 2 races. What can we expect from the drivers today? Well, you've got a track of well, you have Interlagos ahead of you. This is one of those tracks where you can expect some of the tightest racing around the entire calendar. I mean, this is a track which in its width itself resembles the characteristics of certain straight circuits. Monaco, Baku, for example. That's just to name a few. We've had a lot more in the past. Canada in itself has a certain element of the streets in on the racetrack. So Miko and P9, also one of the drivers which was very strong in the first set of qualifying session, not first sets of, but just simply the first set. We have a few drivers disqualified, but obviously this is just formation stuff. So what this means is that it will all be Gucci. We have a nice little car, and Red Bull sponsored car, in the grass. I'd like to remind you that after the race last week, Mika is in first, followed by the baby and the Rapster. The baby not racing today. But you know who is. You know who Preston is. You have Dolga. Big shout out to Dolga for actually saving us with the invites today. Preston is still labelled as disqualified, obviously will be back. 14 laps separate us from the moment where the race begins to the moment the race will finish with a checkered flag. 5 laps are now what we are waiting for. I will welcome you to Interlagos, Brazil, where Dustley already takes a drive-through penalty for a false start, but the run down to turn 1 is going to be very exciting with an easy gap. We have Dustley moving. Oh, and there it is, crash. Appears to be Preston that is making a move upwards up the track, but everybody is making a significant stride forward. Charlie with a 5-place improvement since the first corner. The Raps are now trying to make a move around the outside of the Scottish fish. Obviously not the fish from Ireland, not the fish from England. This is the fish from Scotland, who now loses the space, the slot to the Rapster. Behind him now, Preston fighting for a position, now being P7, but he's not being overtaken. But Ben, can he hold on is the question. Appears that he's doing fairly right. Darsley and Olga also remaining in P1 and P2, so no changes as far as that goes. Preston P8 and is followed by Charlie in P10, slightly further down, fighting with our lovely Scottish fish, and trying to make a move up the inside within the last final set of corners, and he does. With the slow start, he will now be allowing the Scottish fish to make a move back. Is there something we can expect? It definitely is. DRS not enabled until lap 3, but this is a massive opportunity for not only Scottish fish, but for Preston's teammate Charlie to make another move. Now we ice the Scottish fish trying to make a move upwards. This is going 4 wide into turn 1, but unfortunately no significant overtakes made. We had the single car corner cutting just slightly. Charlie now in P7 making a move in ahead of the Scottish fish, which mind you is in P14. That must have been the car that went off track. P6 now belongs to Preston. At the front of the pack, which is where we're looking at right now, we have Kazuris and D-Raps, the two teammates fighting for P2 and P1 potentially as well. Dogan now obviously making a little bit more of a pull away, but somebody that isn't pulling away is definitely Ghost. In fact, he has to fight Kazuris every single corner. We've seen that just a moment ago. The Raps that are making a move on his teammate, almost like team orders, with a beautiful interchange of those positions. Kazuris as if he was literally knowing that the Raps is going to be quicker. They must be in some kind of communication that allows them to understand each other so well. Or maybe these guys are simply, I'd like to say brothers, whether I can say that I don't know. What I do know is that there's a potential for Ghost to lose his P2 and Dolga in the biggest threat, I guess you could say. The Raps with the 118 sets the fastest time, which is soon beaten by Preston, of course. They even now appears to be fighting not only Preston behind him, but fighting the Raps ahead. So with lap 3 commencing, we now have DRS enabled. David's looking for the clean air This race is definitely going quicker than we could have expected originally, but what is not going too quick is Preston's move up to turn, well not turn, but P1. Although if you look at him now, this is an amazing move that he's doing. Almost a crash there as we see David moving slightly off to the side, but now he forces Preston to go all the way off the track with his left tyre. Kazuro's now almost giving space or holding up Preston, which allows Davey to make that overtake. Can Preston take advantage? No, not yet. Durapster right up ahead, as we can see, almost making the move on Ghost. A massive train forming now, almost odd given the fact that it's already lap 3 and we have a very wide range of skill sets in the Street League. But what we also have is a very wide range of drivers using the very wide DRS, and now Preston makes a lovely move up the inside, a switch back there with a little bit of contact onto his competitor there. Charlie loses his space with his teammate, of course, that being Kazuris. Now will be the next in the firing line of the previous race winner. Preston going around the outside is the driver in the car lane. Davey up ahead, also making an attempt to overtake the Durapster kind of forcing Kazuris to go off the track. Ghost currently managing to take advantage of this by pulling up closer to Dolga. And we have a bit of contact with Davey pushing the Rapster forward, and Kazuris now making a move on Preston. Preston, can he hold on around the outside? No, he cannot. Charlie behind them as well. But this is a fierce competition with both of them touching. Once again, the Rapster now potential in a loss of position, not only to Kazuris but to Preston as well, who now manages to find his position back in P5. That's 5 positions of a gain since lap 1. Lap 4 or 14 is what we have right now. Can we expect Ghost to make a move on Dolga? He is seeming to be quite far away, but the train continues to exist. Not a single driver can pull away too far from the other. If we take a look at the leader gap, there is a 2-second gap within the top 10. Now Preston trying to make another move, this time around the outside in the same place around the track. How successful is it not? Oh, unfortunately he's going to have to wait till the next corner, which is also a potential overtaking spot of over TF Davey, my bad, sorry for my very switchy tongue. Kizoris now right behind. Preston seems to be settling for P5 as far as this moment goes. We take a look down the track for a very slight moment and see that Charlie is easily, happily trotting away in P7. Kazuris now obviously trying to push on to Preston. Can he make the move there? Appears that Preston is going to hold on, but how close can each of these drivers get to Dolga had they all not been stuck in this train? This really does look something that you'd see around Monaco. Mika, despite having a very strong qualifying session, is really stuck behind everyone else. P8. Oscar, the free second time penalty for multiple warnings. Not the first driver to have been given a penalty. Definitely not the last. But would you look at this? Davey in P4. Oh, and there's a crash. I believe that was Dolga, but Dolga from the lead crashes down all the way to P9 and is going to go even deeper. But meanwhile, we take a look because Kazuris is now making an overtake on Mika. That was a beautiful overtake around the outside with his teammate now far down the line. P10, P9 after leading the race. Guess who's taking over? The Rapster. Now P4 now belongs to Preston thanks to that accident. Unfortunately, we didn't get any coverage of that. But what we will get coverage now is the intense fight for the new lead of the race and a massive dive bomb from Preston. He's clearly been watching some Daniel Ricciardo hype vids right before this race, and Davey trying to make the switch back, but the same tactic is used by Preston once again. Round the outside having to use the grass to his advantage. A very massive amount of revving from his car. V4 with a free single time penalty as well. Sector 1 now commences with a yellow flag. Lap 6:0:14. Preston on Davey. Goes now ahead of them with the Rapster leading the race. 8/10 of an advantage is what he currently holds. Davey will now be in the firing range of Preston, even though both of them have DRS. You can now see how quick Preston is on the straights. It must be in the car setup. It must be in his skills. It must be in the way he left the last corner, but that will not be enough to make an overtake up until Davey made a mistake and hit Ghost, absolutely destroying his front wings. You can see, and then there's something falling, but Preston now spins. Preston, last race winner, is now off the track, similar to Dolgan, which appears to be in the same place that Dolgan made his own mistake, if it had been a mistake as well. So now a set amount of our top drivers are all down because of potentially their own mistakes. Preston's fault was definitely his own. Davey now gets an advantage because he is no longer being hunted from behind. He can only concentrate on destroying the teammates of the driver he was almost being overtaken by, that being Charlie. Ghost comfortably managing to pull away, but an overtake is made by Davey. Really pushing. That is dirty driving. That is very dirty driving. Pushing his teammate, not a teammate but competitor, completely off the track. They deserved a penalty, and most surely would be looked at stewards later on in the race. So Davey manages to hold on to P3, Charlie in P4, Preston now in P11. That's outside point scoring positions. So if you take a look, Dolga in P8, I can't tell whether he has damage to the wing, but he definitely took a massive fall considering that he was in P1. Oscar meanwhile trying to make a move up on Dolga, up on Ben, with the next opportunity for overtake being within only a corner. That will be the 5th corner of the track. Every single one of these drivers apart from Dolga and P1 of these little train has DRS, but it appears as if none of them can use it, at least not officially enough. Preston now going to be eyeing his way up the field, lap 8 of 14, and knowing the consequences of making a hit forward, Oscar is forced to step back just slightly. Little train, but look how quick Preston is, despite having the massive crash, despite being in the top 5 just moments ago, despite losing 20 seconds off his time. He's now trailing within the top 10, and it seemed as if he had such a massive gap just a moment ago. I'd love to take a moment to look up the field once again, but that's something we just simply cannot afford to do because turn 1 is approaching. 117.1 is what Charlie has just said. DRS activated in 3 cars. Purple sector from Preston. A big dive up by Oscar, who hits Ben, allowing Preston to make a move up on 2 drivers from P11 to P9 after not even having to do anything, simply making an overtake when the overtake was possible. Dolgan also falling victim to Preston. Maker is the next one up. Yet another driver falls into the firing line of the penalty. 3 second time penalties added to a lot of our drivers. What we see now is the fight for the upper positions. We're still leading a little pack, far away from the Rapster now. Davey having to use every single little part of the track to his own advantage. Not only from the perspective of an attacker, of a predator, but also from the perspective of prey. He has TF Jerry behind him. Teammates in a racing league, or maybe not racing league, but racing clan, shall I say. Davey now trying to make a move up on Ghost, fired into turn 1, going around the outside. DRS was available and he is using it to his advantage. No contact there, no max with Yocon there. But what we do see is Davey in P2 now falling 3 seconds far away from D-Rapster. But guess who will have overtake opportunities? It is Ghost, making an attempt to go up the position once again. He isn't able to, with Charlie just behind him in the Carlin. He is going to have to severely contemplate his plan of action. Now just look how close Charlie is. He's definitely carrying the same spirit as Preston. You know these two race together a lot. Gizoro is just behind them. And Charlie tries to make a move up. Look at that strength of the front wing. Even though he hit our car here, he managed to retain his front wing. He managed to survive. And what he's doing now is continuing the fight. Now turn 1 approaches once again. We are on lap 10 of 14. which will shortly switch to lap 11. So with 3 laps left to go, Ghost has DRS, Charlie has DRS, but Charlie has a better slipstream. Charlie has a better racing line. Into turn 1, he goes round the outside. Beautiful move. Can he make it stick? Up as he does. Goes far away, now falling victim to the train right behind him. Neither driver, I was about to say that neither driver was going to make a mistake on the apex, but Charlie did again. From P2 to P7, falls another Carlin. The apexes of Interlagos are definitely not going to be friends of these drivers for the years to come. They will definitely help Davey though, who magically, after losing a position, retains P2. Now, take a look at this little train that we have. Charlie, I'd like to remind you, has fallen to P7, right ahead of Preston, so 1 second difference, but an overtake up the inside is made by Mika. Can he make a thing? Jerry's going to take advantage of the situation as well now, potentially even going for Mika. Can he do so? Mika appears to be leaving it to get up the inside, but he knows that Jerry is a smart driver. Jerry won't make any risk until it is absolutely certain that he can make the overtake stick. Now, DRS activating all of these drivers. Massive train forming once again. Kazorus will be having to defend, but Mika will be having to defend as well. Jerry up the inside, trying to make a move, and he does. Mika appears to have made a mistake and let Jerry through simply with no issue. Preston receives a 3-second time penalty. His innocence from last race now falls completely. Who else falls? Jerry to P5 complementarily, not complementarily, but potentially following this attack by Mika. Let's take a look at Charlie and Preston, 2 teammates who are now going to have to experience a fight for the upper position. That position being P6. We have a driver in the pit lane. And we are on lap 12 or 14. Please take that into consideration, because there aren't going to be too many opportunities for overtaking. This is the sprint race. You do not have to pit. What you do have to do is make as much positions as possible, because this will depend and decide your starting order for the next race. Charlie now having to go slightly defensive, although as mentioned before, these guys definitely have contact between each other. These guys definitely have some kind of communication, because I've ceased to believe now that switch between the 2 drivers early on was a simple little accident. Now Preston appears to be making a move around the outside. Is this going to be something that his team is going to let through? Yes, he is. So that isn't allowing much action to occur. Where the action will lie is the battle between TF Mika and TF Jerry, 2 teammates within a racing clan, but 2 teammates on track they are not. Jerry having to go almost defensive for a moment, but it appears that he is going to continue on the racing line. Mika having to ease off just a little bit with a teammate in the league. Ghost fired in P3. We saw TF Davey having a little bit of a situation there ahead of him. Really, these apexes around Interlagos aren't going to be any kind of list of friends for years to come for all of these drivers, because we're always with a 3-second time penalty now. Almost every single driver around this track has received a penalty so far. Well, that was in our first qualifying session that we tried to produce, or this one. It is simply mayhem. Ghost now makes a move. That is something I've noticed, unfortunately. TF Davey loses his position, even he's now in P3. Still put in position, but look at the drama right behind him. Look at Preston. Preston from P6 now suddenly appears to having an opportunity to regain a podium position. He has to fight off Davey. He has to fight off Ghost. Charlie gets in the mix. Look at this. This is 4 cars wide. Almost. This is a massive run down to turn 1. Can Preston make a move off the inside between the 2 cars? Yes, he does. He appears to be trying to push either of them out. Turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. Now with the run down to turn 4, he gets hit by the car on the left. This is not the WWE. This is Formula 2. Preston receives a similar consequence to what he had before. Charlie, my bad, I'm very sorry. This is Charlie, not Preston. But they are now re-established within P4 and P5. P2 and P3 are still in the fight, with Preston definitely being able to grab that P2. Maybe the P1 was a bit of a stretch even early on. Drew Upstairs having an awesome race, but Davey and Ghost are definitely somebody who he can take on. Lap 14 though, this is the final lap. This is the last lap that you can make an overtake. You can see some spots appearing on the left front tyre of this Carlin of Preston. Obviously he starts a free single time penalty, but so do the drivers ahead of him. Every single little overtake, every single half a second, every single tenth, every single millimeter you make on your opponent is going to be very useful. Now these are the final corners of the race. The Rapster will now be following into the checkered flag, which means he will take P1. But can Preston make a move? This is how he finished the race last week. Can he try and make a move on beyond the checkered flag? It appears he cannot. That was close. That was very close. We'll now take a look further down the pack because drivers are finishing in a very similar way. Charlie, hold on. Due to not having any penalties, finishes P2, Preston P5. That was your sprint race. And I can tell you, not even Usain Bolt can run a sprint like this. Sprints in Formula 2 are not the sprints you can imagine or compare to things you see at the Olympics. This isn't a 100-meter run. This isn't a swim of 2 lengths of your local swimming pool. There's 14 laps around Interlagos. And these drivers have just proved how to do it. After 14 laps, the Rapster emerges victorious, followed by Charlie, Davey. That will be your podium positions. Deserved, undeserved, Charlie. With the driver of the day. Deserved in my opinion, definitely. Leading a clean race is something you also need to consider when joining leagues. It isn't all about the lap you can set. It isn't all about this kind of stuff. You do have to be consistent. As I said, this is a 14 lap sprint, but in its sprint nature, does it really resemble that quick of a race? Definitely short though, and the short race finishes with Rapster on top. Look at all the top 7 drivers. These are drivers which finished at lower positions than what they finished with. Awesome job by all these drivers here. So Preston the fastest lap of the race, 1:16.8. That seems to be very far off everybody else. Awesome in all honesty, if I can tell you that. So the featured races and what you're about to see. I'd like to take a moment and just, while we wait for the formation lap to finish, just take in consideration what happened today and yesterday in motorsports. So Ferrari regains its glory from what it once was, appearing to be stronger than Mercedes. The Mercedes may be more consistent, but where they can be fast on single lap pace, I can't tell you that in all honesty. That's going to be something we're going to have to evaluate very soon. That being tomorrow, of course. Meanwhile, in the World Endurance Championship, which started on Thursday, we saw the 1,000 miles of Sebring of an American circuit. A very awesome race with a major mistake from the Toyotas. So Sebastian Buemi went in the car. I believe it was Buemi, I may be wrong though, my bad if I am. Had attempted to make an overtake on one of the GT cars. Ended up going into a spin. and then ended up smashing his brakes to the point that he couldn't brake into the next corner, which was a major issue because his car went flying. The Toyotas had to retire car number 7, if I remember correctly. So with car number 7 retiring, Alpine obviously had a lot less pressure for the race win, which they managed to pull through. Something quite amazing because, as I remember from last season, the Toyotas were very, very dominant. Robert Kubica was in the car as well for Prema Orlen, and he's definitely going to be hoping for a much better race than what we've seen before, considering, or racing just season in general, considering the fact that last year, those of you that watch Wake remember, he was in the car around Le Mans. He was going to take P3 as an LMP2 car, P3 in the general classification, mind you, and the car ran out of fuel because there was another lap added due to the time that drivers finished in. But that was last season, that was yesterday, that was on Thursday. What you see now is the NRL feature race, best race you can watch today. Feature race into the Formula 2 cars around no other track but Interlagos. Preston with a quiet and amazing start, going 3 wide cars into the first corner, goes really making a move, trying to push everyone out, and there is the Rapster already off the track, spinning. He appears to be gone, to be dead. Now Preston is already making his little moves from side to side, whether that is just a roller coaster or whether that is him knowing the safety car will come out. I don't know, 20 laps separates him from the end of the race. And I'll take a look further down the pack as we see Oscar trying to make a move on Scottish Fish. I'll repeat what I said before, not English Fish, not Irish Fish, Scottish Fish. Scottish Fish now being in P5, Dunsley now a teammate of the Rapster in P6. Overtaking Oscar, that was quite a clean move, I have to admit myself. But look how close Charlie is to his competitors. What's that? Jerry off the track. Dog on the grass. Iron Apple retiring from the session. That must bring about a safety car. Preston with the 121.4. Obviously not the best time he has had all time, all this day. 118 is what you said in the last race. Meanwhile, Oscar's now trying to make a move up on Dustley. These apexes are going to be nothing closer than an enemy. Definitely not a friend for these drivers. But an overtake is definitely possible. Watch this. No DRS until next lap. But an overtake on the outside is thanks to the slipstream. Unfortunately, no move being made. But watch what we're seeing here. Kazuris fighting with Davey. Now watch how far. This is dirty. This is dirty from both drivers. Davey retired from the session following what we just saw, after Kazuris pushed them off the track. I understand that Davey pushed you off the track as well, for a slight moment, but be the better man. Why would you do this? Sector 2 now grants yellow flags. Iron Apple leaving the session following his retirement. Scottish Fish in P4. Kazuris now under threat from the Scots. Preston meanwhile making a great use of the situation with a almost 2 second of a gap and 117.5. That's quicker than his lap time last race. Anyway, 2 seconds is the gap that he almost has produced to Mika. I appears that we have some kind of movement up here. What have we just seen? What have I just witnessed? Speak about the WWE. People, turn that back. 20 seconds. That was a complete wipeout of the driver. I'm not even able to tell who it was. Who said we're playing wipeout? I thought this is F1. F2, sorry. But anyway, since we're playing Wipeout, Preston, what are you waiting for? Wait for Mika, smack him in the back, there you go. Obviously I'm joking, this is not something we want to see from any driver. But the crashes are definitely somewhat entertaining. Look at the amount of times our Scott is making to Kazoo's. Kazoo's in P3 after finishing quite a good position last race, considering the circumstances. What we're seeing now is Charlie trying to make a move back into range of his teammate. Obviously that's why you want both drivers to finish within the top 3. It's going to be very tough with the gaps that are currently being produced. Ben now making use of the situation, trying to catch up to Charlie. You can now watch Charlie trying to take on Dusty, just slightly easing off. Oscar finds himself in the mix as well. Someone haven't realised was there just a moment ago. I'm sorry for that. Penalties, like to remind you, currently are being rewarded to Kazorus, Dusty, and Dionskik. So now Oscar, somebody that is fairly new as far as I'm concerned, is making some substantial progress here. Hopefully he doesn't wipe out another driver the way we have seen before. Jerry in the pits, Preston with another faster lap. He's definitely dominating this race. He's going to have to make his quite significant gap if he wants to pit comfortably. Oscar trying to make a move up the inside. Can we see him do so? It appears that he has managed to. But Dusty fights back. Now look at this train. 4-car train, each one right behind the other. This is going to be 3 wide into the following corner. Who's going to emerge for victorious? Definitely not Dusty. Sorry, Oscar, my bad. Charlie, in fact, making use of the situation, falling up all the way to P5. By now in close proximity is Dusty, who's going to try and make a move back up the inside, slightly off the track there, waving his hand in frustration. Charlie potentially now at risk of losing position to Oscar as well. Up the inside goes the driver, but Charlie fights back, and Oscar, as you can see right now, has made a move back up on Charlie. So Charlie within lap was back to P7 after being in P5 just a moment ago. Preston with a 2.5 second gap now, almost 2.5, 2.4 to be exact. Pulling away P1 on lap 6 of 20. Now can we try to see another mid-overtake opportunity and attempt by Oscar? Yes we can. How successful can this be? Not very fast. We see his competitor trying to make a move back around the outside, and he does manage somewhat, although he has to invade to the back of the track. But we see another crash. This is Wipeout. I've lost any words. Dusty has retired from the session. So has Oscar. Safety car is emerging from the pits. Ladies and gentlemen, you know where we are, because we're not on a racetrack. We're on a Wipeout competition that's being streamed live. That is awesome. Awesome for us watching, of course, not for the drivers, who will definitely be just slightly angry at what happened. I'm sure they won't be too frustrated, but just slightly angry. So, lap 6, Preston, everybody seems to be pitting. Definitely a good opportunity to do so. Similar to how pit stops had occurred last week. Are Khalid's bringing both cars in? They are not. Look at that lovely safety car. We saw an Aston Martin last week, we see a lovely red Mercedes here this week. Charlie gets the privilege of watching Sorry, I didn't realise I accidentally muted myself there for a moment. So following pit stops, Preston finds himself in P5. Last time he pitted on the safety car conditions, he emerged and only managed to finish P2. So how far can this hit him back again? That's something we're going to find out in the next few laps. The amount of DNFs we've seen so far, so anyone between P13 and P17, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 5 cars DNFing, 5 seconds ambulancy, 4 Dionski, 4 speeding in the pit lane. Definitely unfavourable. So we're only on lap 8 of 20. If this keeps up, then every finishing driver will be awarded points. That's how absurd you know it is, with all the DNFs, with all the wipeouts, with everything going on. You know this will be insane. FIFA with a 3-second time penalty as well. The amount of penalties chucked around is quite insane. Let's just take a look. I'm trying to observe the safety car. Look at that. So we will now begin lap 9 with the safety car. The car on high tech within P1 and P2 followed closely by Ghost and Preston. Let's take a quick look at who is still to pit. So all the top 3 drivers are pitting, which means that Preston finds himself on provisional pole. Not pole, sorry. Provisional first. Now, why wouldn't you pit if you were Charlie? One reason definitely is the potential that if you pit, you mess up your teammates' betting as well, given that you can't both enter the pit at the same time. But are you really willing to make the risk of now having to pit within a few laps and lose all your positions? Anyway, safety car in this lap, and we are about to be greeted to a restart with Charlie now making a move up and going full send. Lovely use of his ability to start this race again. Managed to pull away by 5/10. That's half a second already. Look further behind. Look how close this is. With Kazura trying to make a move up on Mika. Can he do so? Please, that Mika is good so far. Now, Preston. A podium position is within his sights. Literally. And now watch Ghost make a giant, just a tiny mistake, but that's allowing Preston with the number, I was about to say number 7 car, but it appears as if he's driving number 5 to make a lovely move up the inside. Just watch how clean that is. No punching there of his opponent. No more wipeouts, at least from his side of things. D-Rapster now next on the list of victims who need to fall to the knees in front of Preston. If he can manage to pull off another win, this would truly be amazing, and definitely will give him a shot to finish within a very nice position at the end of the race, at the end of the season, my bad, that's right. Now, so with D-Rapster having to, but he's electing to fight this race, to fight this battle, and isn't allowing Preston to make an overtake, force him to go around the outside. But that's definitely something not exactly ideal for either driver. And now D-Rapster is going to have to face off a really wild driver in the named Preston over the course of the next few corners, the next few laps. So lap 11 of 20, we're past halfway in the race. And look how close this is. Not even Preston alone making an advancement of drivers ahead. It's even Mika. Everybody here is truly making moves. Everybody here is ready to go up. Everybody here is ready to go full send. Kazorus, meanwhile, watch him also really making use of all track limits. We remember all the crashes that had just occurred, and it appears as if everything is now neutralized. Nobody has an equal chance. Dog and P9, for example, following everything he went through. So Preston on D-Rapster. D-Rapster still not pitting, although I did think he was going to pit that moment. Pitch as if he's going to hold on for a little longer. DRS enabled once again, and Preston will be forced wide round the outside. Once again, unsuccessful of a move. How many attempts will it take? He's definitely not willing to waste too much time. He has Charlie to catch, he has his teammate to catch. Although in all fairness, with no pit stops being made by the drivers ahead of him, what does he have to worry about? Maybe the drivers behind, after the drivers ahead do pit, the ones behind could definitely be an issue for him. Lap 12 of 20, D-Rapster still managing to hold on a really one size, and he doesn't. He falls to Preston. He now finds himself in P2, but will there be a fight back from D-Rapster? Seems to be. He's being pushed by Mika. He's being pushed by Kazurus, by his teammate Kazurus. Kazurus now making a move up the inside on his own teammate, and you find a Carlin high-tech, on his way towards Preston. Really seeing the effort going into controlling the car on the apex is definitely not an easy thing. So you now have two Carlins, P1, P2, one of them having to pit if I remember correctly. Yep. So Charlie will be forced to pit. How ideal was that? Not at all, because now you're risking losing positions. The only help I imagine Preston could be giving here is holding up the drivers behind. That's the most he can do, and actually quite a lot he can do. And see a little bit of positional change here as our Scottish fish is making a move on Ben here. Or they touch, yes they do once again. But it appears as if Ben will be victorious in this element of the track at least. Scotty Fish is going to try and make a move back up. How successful? Not at all until the next attempt, obviously that being on the starting straight. P5 to P10, now a podium, not podium, but pointed position. So fishy, losing out. Let's take a look whether he put, because it appears he is on a new set of tyres. Charlie now in the pits. Where he will leave is something of much interest. Seems to be very far down. One of the drivers have pitted just now, which means that Preston takes control of the race, but Charlie emerges. We will take a look in just a moment. He's definitely going to be very far away from his not only teammate but closest competitor. That's 14 seconds of a gap. At least, unless I'm wrong and there's some kind of glitch. But 13 seconds of gap, immediately easing it down. So now everybody has pitted. Preston can continue making his gap known. 1.5 of a second already. And another fast lap, 1:16.8. This is quicker than his lap in the sprint race. So these tyres definitely doing him a lot of good. Ben and P4, would you look at that? Scotty Fish is now trying to make an attempt to hold on. I bring him to do so quite significantly, at least it appears to do so. Sector 1 will run through with the yellow flag once again. Hopefully no more wipeout events. Dogger multiple warnings, 3 second time penalty. That appears that one of those warnings could have been regarding a collision with another driver. No, I can't tell whether our driver here is ghosting because of yes, he's disconnected. We shall not worry if you're disconnected. P10, the battle for the last pointed position is on. We're on lap 15 of 20, so with 15 laps left, everybody has pitted. We just saw a few other drivers experiencing the I like to say providing, that maybe isn't a good word, but being awarded a 3 second time penalty, definitely not something favourable, but a consequence you have to take if you're racing. Preston meanwhile, 3 second time penalty, so I'm not entirely sure how this will finish up. If Ghost retiring, he was far down the list, but to retire is definitely something I wasn't expecting. Is Charlie going slowly? Safety car, sorry, my bad. So Ghost must have been in some kind of accident because we have another safety car going slowly. That's why Charlie had to slow down. So that's it. That's Preston's 2 second gap down to nothing in a moment. So the wipeout story continued. We weren't lucky enough to see it this time, but given that Duraps is pitting, appears that he might have been involved in the incident that we had spoken about just a moment ago. You see what I find confusing? I'll be completely honest with you. Preston, sorry, in the pits now for the soft compound tyre with a few laps left. Definitely will be trying to pit. That's not what I was about to speak about. What I was about to speak about is that I'm not entirely used to the Formula 2 cars, so I'll be completely honest with you. So this is something new to me, relatively speaking. But two teams being sponsored by Red Bull, either they had too much money, or I've got no clue what's going on. because it already makes identifying cars a bit tougher. So guess who's back in P1? That is definitely our man Dolga. He now gets to see the lovely ends of our Mercedes. And then right behind him, Scotty Fish. Once again, not from England, not from Ireland. This is a fish from Scotland, lads. I'm sorry, had to. Sometimes you just can't resist. Anyway, safety car doesn't appear to be going in this lap. Preston in P6, so soft compound tyre. Let's take a look at the amount of drivers who had pitted. Preston, the only driver within the top 6 to have pitted. That is correct. A few other drivers have it as well. And look at this. So Preston now on fresh soft compound tyres, coming against 5 drivers ahead of him on 10 lap 1 mediums. You tell me who you think is going to win, because I know what I think. Anything can happen now, honestly, given how hard Preston is able to push and how hard he's been proving his abilities so far in the race. Anything can happen. We saw him spin earlier today on the apexes of the early turns. The soft compound tyres are really promising at this point in the race. A very, very well done strategy for the driver here. The Rapster, mind you, also on his second stop, so while he's far away from all the other drivers, he is on fresh tyres. We're back to racing once again. Once this lap is over, we're going to have only 2 laps left of the race. Make sure to stick around to the very end for a chance to, as Salim Haddad would say, for a chance to win a free PS2 with an Xbox 360 and Minecraft pre-installed. So Dog leading the race, followed by Ben, Scotty Fish, not from England, not from Ireland, Fish from Scotland, Preston now in P5. Trying to make a move up on FIFA as well. He's going to be making, and that is an awesome move already. Now very quick, but almost spun off the track. That is what we were speaking about earlier. These apexes are unforgiving. You can't make any mistakes on them. Charlie with a 5-second time penalty for ignoring yellow flags. That's definitely not something he was wishing for. Not in these elements of the race when you're in P7 and your teammate is in P4 fighting for the win of the race. Now just watch the difference in the times and the speeds. The fresh compound tyres plus the skill set that Preston holds are really giving a massive advantage with the overtake ability and just the sheer speed. Look at this. He's immediately pulling away from every driver. This appears to be the best strategy decision he could have potentially made. There is no way the same outcome would have been reached had he remained on his medium compound tyres, which were 1. Now, yes, that would have meant that he would still be in P1, but he knows his abilities, he knows his strategies. Lucky enough not to be racing the way everybody was expecting the race to go. So look at this, P2, he's taken on everyone so easily. Dolga appears like he's gonna have nothing left in him, and then overtake up the inside after being so far away is made by Preston within a lap of the safety car ending. Finds himself in P1 after being in P5 or P6 or something around that area. Now the Rapster, also the driver who decided to go on to the soft compound tyres. Look at him from P10 to P6. This is awesome. The drivers which are willing to make the risk are the ones that are willing to make the gains. Charlie meanwhile on P10 really sad life. But look at this, look how hard the Raps does to fight in order to retain any kind of positions. Imagine having to bump tires and practically every single overtake. Oh wait, look at that! It appears as if his front wing is going to be damaged. Let's take a look from this angle. Potentially we'll be able to see something. It doesn't appear too tough of damage, I guess you could say. But there were definitely flying elements following that piece of contact. Now, how will they influence Kazor's ability to overtake? We're about to see Preston with the 116.6 now just setting first lap, now tires interlocking. What are these drivers doing? FIFA really forcing every single one of his competitors. Oh, that was the last lap. My bad, there was so much interesting racing going on, we forgot which lap the race finishes on. My bad guys, I'm very sorry, but awesome race. Scotty Fish for the win. Is he? We didn't see the standings following the race updated following all the addition of penalties. I don't think Preston had too much of those. But who won the race? We're about to find out. Confirmed results, please. FIA, don't scoff this. Ben, in fact, not Scotty Fish, but Ben takes P1. Preston falling to P2. Unfortunately, no wins for him today. So it was all down to the penalties that affected this. Dog and P4 legend, as we said earlier. What a race with several DNFs and an amazing amount of penalties. Anything could have happened at this point. The Rapster fell to P5. Preston had an awesome run. It appears as if he was, look at that, 0.9 of a second off P1. All down to the tiny penalty that was awarded to him early in the race. That's why you drive clean race, kids. Well, I guess our race over. 2 races in fact, with not a single win from last week's superstar Preston. Charlie meanwhile also experienced some struggling throughout this competition. What we've seen was absolutely, I can't explain it, to be honest. Horrific, eventful. We were playing Wipeout for half the race. A highlight reel can definitely be made from this. Well, I thank you for joining me in this race. It was definitely an awesome competition to commentate. We saw, as I just mentioned, some questionable moments with the amount of wipeouts, amount of hits. These guys were playing WWE, these guys weren't playing F1. But it was definitely entertaining, it was definitely awesome. Ben happens to be the race winner of today's feature race. I'll see you again next week, at least I hope I will, given I get another week contract extension from my employer. Like and subscribe for the Xbox 360 with the Minecraft game pre-installed and 5,000 diamonds in your chest. My name is Oliver. I'll see you next week. Thank you for joining me.